Have you ever wondered what exactly happens in a therapy session? Not what you see in movies, not what you see in reels, but in real life. I'm a therapist and I'm going to be telling you step by step what the process looks like and how it changes your brain over time. First things first, therapy can look different for different people. You might be seeing your therapist in a clinic, in an office, online, and it can even happen over a telephonic call. Now, therapy usually works on appointment basis. Why appointment? Because the duration of therapy session can range between 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and even longer, depending on the kind of therapy that you're going for. Most common type is individual therapy, which is it can really range between 45 minutes, 50 minutes to 60 minutes. I take clients for 60 minutes for each session. So, yes, it depends on the therapist and their approach. Now that you have reached your therapist clinic or waiting for your online session to begin, in that waiting period or when you're sitting in that waiting area, certain thoughts can cross your mind. Like, what if I start crying in the therapy session? What if this therapist judges me? What if I go completely blank and don't know what to say? All of these thoughts are valid. They're very common to experience. You might experience a mix of emotions like anxiousness, excitement, curiosity, those butterflies in your stomach. All of that is also common to experience. Now, once you enter the therapy room, the therapist might initiate the conversation by asking simple questions like, how are you doing? How is it going? How are you feeling today? Or probably what brings you to therapy if that's your first therapy session. Now, therapists might ask you specific questions to retrieve more information to understand you better. Does not mean that you have to answer immediately, you have to give the right answer, you have to maintain a certain chronology when you're sharing information. You can take your own time, do it at your own pace. You can even say, I don't know where to start, or I'm feeling a little confused. It's the therapist's responsibility to gather all of that and structure it and create a timeline. That's not your role and responsibility. And when you start talking, you can talk about anything, your mood, your relationship, something that's bothering you at work. It can be sleep issue, basically anything and everything, even if it's abstract in your mind, which is, my body is feeling a certain way. It can be a feeling of distress, it can be a feeling of suffocation, but I'm not sure where it's coming from. So it's completely fine, even if it's not well structured, because that's the role of the therapist to take care of. Now, you might feel sometimes very confused and may go all blank, and that's also fine. Silence is allowed in therapy. Yes, it might surprise you, but you don't have to continuously just keep talking. Sometimes silence is intentional, whether it's from part of the therapist or whether it's part from the client. And that silence is sometimes part of the work that you're doing with the therapist. So, understanding the role of the therapist mostly listens, making notes of everything that you're sharing with them. The therapist might ask you questions about how did that make you feel? Tell me more about it. Open ended questions to again gain more information from you. Now, this is not an interview, so it's more like a free flowing conversation that's happening between two people. After some talking, the therapist might help you notice some patterns in your thoughts, feelings, and reaction. For example, in certain situations, I feel agitated and angry. Now, these are not to judge you or blame you, but to help you understand why and where these patterns are coming from. Now, these are moments where clients have small but powerful realizations. I'll help you understand that with an example. A client might bring up a situation saying that every time I message someone, but they don't respond immediately, my mind goes to thoughts like they don't care about me. I must have definitely said or done something wrong. Now, with therapy, the therapist helps you understand it's not really about the message, but it's more about fear of being abandoned or ignored, is what's getting triggered when we don't receive an immediate response from the other party. This is actually where your brain starts changing. Where you notice a thought, pause, and reflect, your brain is rewiring little pathways. This is called neuroplasticity. Your brain learning new ways to respond instead of reacting automatically as part of our old patterns. Let's understand this with an example. Let's think of your mind like it has a volume button. For many people, volume of fear, overthinking, self-doubt is turned up really high. So now, for these individuals, every small things can feel very, very loud, like a delayed text, someone's comment, someone's tone. It can sound and feel very, very loud in their mind. So now what therapy does is it can't really switch off the feelings completely because that's not how life works, right? So what therapy does is to turn this volume slightly down. So the thoughts are still there, but they're not screaming in my mind. The impact of it reduces. And we almost start feeling like they are more manageable, and I can listen to it, but I can also overcome it because the impact of it has reduced. As you progress and continue your therapy work with the therapist might introduce you to interventions, which might include techniques, strategies, journaling, breath work, and a lot more. Like, I love giving worksheets to my clients. The interventions really depend on the approaches the therapist is using, basically, their specialization. Now, if you continue doing these activities, it really strengthens the calm parts of your brain and weaken the stress loops, so you really feel like over time there is some change that's happening in your behavior, in your thought process. You're able to manage the stress situation better. You're able to respond instead of reacting to situation. So that's a change that starts happening over time. Towards the end of the session, the therapist might ask you to summarize what were your key takeaways from the session. Sometimes they might do it for you, but we'll encourage you to do that more so that the conversation really stays with you. But yeah, not every time when you end a therapy session, you might feel amazing. Sometimes you might feel very heavy. Sometimes you might feel lighter. Sometimes you might feel neutral, numb. It really depends on the conversation that you had in the therapy session. The therapist mostly takes care of, you're not going back with something very, very heavy. They try to wrap it up accordingly. But yeah, there's no consistent feeling that you can experience towards the end of the therapy session. I mean, after every therapy session. Most importantly, therapy doesn't end when the session ends. You might take back some key learnings, reflections, some techniques that you learned in the therapy session, might want to go back, try them, and come back and give the feedback if that worked for you or not. Each session strengthens the new patterns in your brain, little by little over time. So now you know therapy isn't mysterious or scary. It's scheduled conversations in a safe space where you understand yourself better. Session by session, it changes the way you think, react, and how your brain handles stress. So, yeah, that's how therapy looks like in real life.